Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV. Welcome to the lunchtime show. Bank holiday weekend's done. We're back in the swing of things. No midweek game this week, but a big win over the weekend. Bit of a confidence boost, prolonged the season for another week, and somehow we are still in the conversation, and we are still theoretically right in the race for Champions League football. Today's show, we're going to be discussing that race for the top five, the fixtures left, how many wins are required, can we do it, plus loads of other stuff. And as always, guys, get your thoughts and feelings in the chat. Any questions you want answering, let us know. But yeah, Nina, how are you doing? First of all, you good?
Yeah, good, mate. Been a bit ill, but there's just something going round at the moment. I feel like that's the most British thing to say. There's something going round, but there really is.
If someone said, where are you from? Then you said that, they'd know straight away. I don't think anyone else says that in the world, do they? They just don't say it.
They must do. And then the second thing, I'm having a nice cup of tea as well, so feeling good, mate. Yeah, bank holiday weekend's done. But yeah, no, nice to get the win in the way we did. But I have to say, I was very miserable until the 83rd minute because I was just ready to be fuming again. That's it. Fulham have done the double over us for the first time in their history. It's gotten worse, arguably. And we've been hitting lows in the last couple of seasons, but it seems like every season we seem to beat a record that wasn't there beforehand, which is just bad in itself. But yeah, that game could have been very, very different. And, of course, the result's important in the end. But, if you put a magnifying glass and you actually really pick out some of the concerns in that performance, then it wasn't pretty. There was a lot of things that went wrong, in my opinion. And I think overall there was a lot of poor individual performances as well, but some individual brilliance from George. And of course, Neto saved the day. But yeah, what a goal, by the way. To be fair, Alex literally messaged me after the game because he saw my fan cam and he was like, I didn't realise you felt it was like that negative towards the game. And I was like, well, obviously you guys being in the ground, celebrating the goal in the end, like that goal and it being a last minute winner, like the emotions at the end are obviously a big high for you. So it kind of takes away it doesn't take away, it adds to the overarching emotion coming away from the game. But like for me watching it on TV, I just thought there was so much wrong in the performance. But
no, there was. There's no denying it. Like the performance wasn't good. Like no one's going to pretend that the performance was good. But at this stage of the season, I'm not about micro-analysing and dissecting performances with 5 games to go.
No.
Like, we've not played well pretty much for the whole second half of the season. We didn't play well again in that Fulham game. The first half was abysmal. Second half, there was an improvement to a degree. The substitutions did make a difference and we were a bit better, but we still didn't create that many opportunities and whatnot. But for me, at this stage of the season, get the points on the board, win a game any way possible. And if you need to be bailed out by individual brilliance, so be it. But that's not a sustainable way of playing. And that's not something that you can rely upon, individuals bailing you out each week and last minute winners. So look, grateful for the 3 points, absolutely. And it's a massive result for us in the context of the season because things, the scenes at full time were amazing. But, football's such fine margins. That could have been really, really bad, like walking out of the ground and whatnot at full time. So, yeah, we kind of prolonged the season for another week. And you were hoping that Spurs might do us a favour last night. I mean, I don't know why I thought that would be possible. You can't rely on Spurs for anything. I mean, Forest getting a massive win. Man. Forest getting a really big win there as well, because that for them, they'd lost back-to-back games. And you think you go to Spurs, it is away. I know Spurs is shit, but like it's a big away game. When you're going for that Champions League spaces, you're not used to that pressure. They're not used to it. They pulled out a big result, and I would almost say now, when you look at the table with 5 games to go, it's Forest have taken a big, big step with that win last night. They're now on 60 points. You could argue, for me, I think 63 gets it.
Yeah.
I think Forest, for me, if they get one more win, well, 2 more wins and they're definitely there, 100%. But you look at us and we're a point outside the top 5. When you see, I mean, it's only 1 defeat in our last 6 in the league. But when you just look back at those drop points against Ipswich, those drop points against Brentford when he played a weakened team, you're just thinking, particularly the Ipswich game, you put 2 more points on us and we're sitting 4th. And then there's a different sort of a bit of a different conversation. I know it's still pretty tight, but for me, there's just like, if we do miss out, or even with the position we're in right now, it's a massive sense of frustration because it's all our fault.
It is, yeah. No, that's what I said. At the end of the day, like, we are our own enemies. If we miss out on Champions League football, we have only ourselves to blame. Because I kept saying, like, how many more chances, how much more leeway do you need? The front door is literally open for top 5 this year. And, you know, it has been. Yet we've been dropping points in games where arguably it's like, you know, must win. It's like do or die, because it could come to a point where, with how competitive it is right now, it's going to come down, obviously, to the end pretty much. And, you know, when we play Newcastle further down the line, you know, that could be pretty decisive as well. But it's like, why do we put ourselves in that position where we have so much pressure? You know, we're talking about, we were comfortably in a 2nd place position when teams around us were in their own poor run of form. Now they've been up and down, yes, but they've entered better form in the most important part of the season, and here we are dropping points to Brentford and Ipswich. And you all look back at those games and think, you know, that could make a difference. Like, we're sandwiched in between City and Villa right now. They play tonight, don't they? So
yeah,
regardless how that goes, you know, it's like, again, you're looking at other teams to potentially trip up themselves here towards the end. So not only are we our own enemies, but we're also going to have to trust that other teams around us are going to slip up and lose some games as well to allow us an advantage and allow us to swing in. But I just think it's so wasteful. Like, for the first time in English football, we have 5th guaranteeing you a Champions League spot, yet here you are fighting for your life to literally cement yourself in that top 5 when, you know, the competition this year has been all over the place. Teams have been, you know, fluctuating, and yet here we are, you know, here we are. We literally messed it up against Ipswich in December, messed it up against Ipswich this year. And, you know, you're not going to look at Ipswich and say, oh, we didn't, you know, get top 5 because of Ipswich. But again, it comes down to that. Like, how badly do you want it? It's literally there for the taking. How many more mistakes do you want to make? Like, that's the bigger issue. So yeah, of course, the results are important, but, you know, you play like that, like you play against Fulham, like you play against Ipswich, like you play against Leicester and Southampton, even though those were W's. Well, where are you going to pick up the wins against the teams coming up against you now? Like, that's the biggest issue I have.
I mean, you look at this now, right? And you're sort of thinking, right, we're relying on other teams as things stand, but it's also in our hands because we've got to play Forest and Newcastle. So actually, it's totally in our hands. But the reality is, when you look at the games that we've got left, you look at the 5 fixtures we've got left. For me, I think you need 3 wins from 5, and that'll get you in. You know, that'll be what, 9 points, 57. That'll be 66 points. 66 points should get you in the top 5, in theory. So I think we need 3 wins from the last 5 games. Now, we've got 3 home games, and you think, right, win your home games. But Everton on Saturday, 12:30 kickoff, that's suddenly become quite a difficult game in terms of Moyes is there now. They're a lot better than they would have been if Dyche was still there. The whole Stamford Bridge atmosphere and whatnot has been an issue. And for me, I look at it, and you've got Liverpool as well. Yes, they might be champions by then, but they're not just going to turn up and roll over for us. And then you've got the situation with Man United, who are absolutely shocking, and they will probably play the kids if they've got the Europa League final to look at the week after. But also, our record against them is abysmal. So I don't envision a situation where we will win those 3 home games. So we're going to have to go and do something that we've not managed to do for the longest time possible. We're going to have to go and win a difficult away game against the top side. You know, we're going to have to go to Newcastle and maybe win, or we're going to have to go to Forest on the last day and win. You know,
when Fulham away at the weekend was our first away win in how long?
First away win of the year. That's our first away win since we beat Tottenham in December.
That's worse than I actually expected, but there you go.
No, that's our first away win of the season. It's absolutely mental.
Yeah, you want to go away to St James's Park or go to Nottingham Forest at the end of the year and get a win there.
Yeah, no, it's very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult. And whilst that obviously the win against Fulham was big for us, and funnily enough, you know, if you looked at the two games, right, Ipswich and Fulham, I would have said, given our form, that's 4 points. I would have said we would have beaten Ipswich at home, and at best, we would have got a draw against Fulham, given our current form, the away record, and whatnot. So, in a bizarre kind of way, from those two fixtures, we have sort of got the points that probably a lot of Chelsea fans would have expected. I'm not sure there are many fans that realistically, genuinely felt we would get 6 points from those two games. But regardless of that, the fact of the matter is that those 4 points is not good enough. It should have been 6. And you look at the way that we're playing, and we are still not playing well. And as I said, you know, individual brilliance can bail you out in moments, but you cannot rely on that. You cannot rely on last-minute goals. You cannot rely on players to produce a piece of magic every single week. That was our best team, by the way, that we had available. Obviously, Fofana is injured, but that's the best team we had available to put out. And that first half was as bad as anything we've seen. Yeah. And I think we've still got a number of issues. And I said it at the time after the Legia game when we lost 2-1. We've got a coaching issue and we've got a player quality issue. You know, a lot of these players are nowhere near as good as what a lot of Chelsea fans think. There's probably 4 or 5 of those who are starting players, and then the rest should be squad players. You look at it with the money that we've invested. I can say we've got 5 starters, the 2 fullbacks, the 2 midfield players, and Cole Palmer. The rest of those guys are squad players who are having to play, who are actually key players for us. That's mental. Jackson should be a squad player right now. So should the likes of Madueke. So should Sancho. You know, Sanchez shouldn't even be at Chelsea. The centre backs, bar Fofana, aren't good enough. So when you look at it, that's it, and that's a big issue when we spent that much money to not only have such a lack of quality, but to also have so many gaping holes in the squad. And I don't know what you think about it. So I was discussing this with Alex yesterday. I think we've got a Reece James issue in terms of not Reece James himself, but in terms of Reece James has never been less important for Chelsea than he is right now in this system. Because the idea that when Reece James is fit, he wouldn't start, or the idea that when Reece James is fit, he wouldn't play 90 minutes is mental. But in this system, it doesn't suit him. You barely ever see him getting into the final third, let alone putting balls into the box, let alone being a threat in the opposition half. He was sleeping when he gave the ball away and got dispossessed by Sessegnon. He was very, very average. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, Reece James is one of our best players, arguably the best right back in world football on his day when he's fit. Surely we've not taken a decision where at 25 years of age, they've decided that he cannot get up and down the pitch like he used to. He's stayed fit for a number of games now, and this is the longest period he's been fit for quite a while. He's made more appearances than he did last season. All good, promising building blocks. But Reece James has never been less important for Chelsea. And it's mad. And it's a bit sad, really, that this guy just doesn't really contribute to the team anymore. Not in this system. You know, it's almost like I'm not even that fussed now of Reece James start because he has virtually zero impact in the role that he's playing on the team.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's quite concerning actually that our 2 best players in the team arguably have been so nullified, and you know their best strengths aren't even half there evidently on the pitch. And obviously I'm talking about Cole Palmer here as well, because how have we turned into you know a side where Reece James and Cole Palmer look so mid in this system, you know, with how they've been playing recently. And I, you know, cut Reece some slack because he's returned from, you know, some big injuries. He's a chronic, we know that, but he is very much still a fantastic player. And the way Maresca's utilising him is taking out his best strengths. Same with Palmer. And you can see how vulnerable he looks. You know, how many times do we need to say that? Reece shouldn't play in midfield. And you can obviously see that he struggles with his awareness there as well. Okay, I get that he's he's not that quick anymore. But we know that Maresca was very adamant that he doesn't want to use overlapping fullbacks anymore, well, at all. And, you know, he won't use Reece James in build-up as much as, you know, we are used to seeing. Because who else helps? Who else is sending those long balls in? Who else is, you know, creating? Because let's be real, Reece James is as good as he is defensively attacking too, right? Like, he's helped us so much in previous seasons to goal contributions, to creativity, to everything like that, and now there is none of that. So that is I think an Enzo Maresca issue more than anything, and how he's utilizing it. Is it coincidence that at the same time both Palmer and Reece James are looking as they are? I don't think so.
And Gusto's struggled big time this season as well. But
and again, Enzo Maresca is at fault for that, because Malo Gusto is a player that's been messed with so much, probably more than any other player this season, with how much he's chopped and changed his position to a point where Malo Gusto just looks like a shadow of himself, not even a smidge of what he was like last year.
But the mad thing is that out of the fullbacks, this system only suits Cucurella, right? It doesn't suit any of the other ones. When obviously Vega was here, Vega's a utility player. He can do that left back invert into midfield. But from the right side with Reece and Gusto, it doesn't suit them at all. They don't have the awareness to be midfield players. They don't really. I mean, Reece has got the quality on the ball. I don't think Gusto's got the quality on the ball. But last season, I think Gusto had 9 assists. He was pushing up and down that flank, getting balls into the box. I cannot remember many occasions, if any, where James or Gusto have played this season at right back where they've actually been a threat and a danger in the final third. They've got forward, they've put balls into the box. It hasn't happened. And I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, I get it, this is your system and this is how you want to play. But surely you want to have a situation where you are setting the team up to get the best out of your best players, your game changers. Yeah. And Reece James and Palmer are 2 match winners, 2 game changers for Chelsea. And obviously Palmer's going for a dip right now. Start of the season, he was fantastic. You know, he's still got 21 GNA this season. This is not a bad season for Cole Palmer. It's just all of that's come in the first half of the season. If it had been spread out, then the conversation around Palmer is very different. You know, what did he get last season? I think he got 33 GNA. So he's about 11 less at the moment in terms of GNA. 5 games remaining. So he could end up getting maybe, let's say, 9, between 8 to 10 GNA less than his unbelievable season last season. That's not a bad season, numbers-wise. But the reason why it looks bad is because all of it come before Christmas. And he's now had a situation where he scored 1 goal this calendar year. And we're at the end of April. So the way that it's been spaced out, I think, completely changes the narrative around Palmer. Because if you said to me if you said to me this season, Palmer's going to get 10 GNA less than he did last season, I'd be like, as a follow-up season, that's very, very good.
Yeah, but I think it's different because we watch him play in games. You know, if you want to look at it statistically overall, and if you're just sat there looking at last year's GNA to this season's GNA, yeah, of course you'd say that. But if you've watched his performances, there is a visible drop-off in his form and in the way that he's no longer looking like a player that has the license to unleash the talent that he has, to be the footballer that he
confidence
was
right now.
But it isn't just confidence anymore. I think yes, it
but
is.
He's massively confident as well.
It is, I think I agree. It is to a degree confidence as well, but it is also Enzo Maresca. Maresca looks like he's kind of locked up Cole Palmer in a sense, because, you know, you're not telling me that suddenly, like, I don't believe that Cole Palmer is a 1-season wonder. He's not. He's a talented footballer, and he is one of those footballers that can give you consistency and go to any side and any team and play well. So why is it? Because we've seen it. You know, we saw it for the under-21s. We saw it at City. We saw it at Chelsea last year. Why is it suddenly that in Enzo Maresca's system, he just looks like a shadow of himself. I didn't think he played very well against Fulham. I think, yes, he tried to help out defensively, maybe put a cross in or two, but, you know, the confidence thing is there, you can see, but he doesn't have the freedom, and he's not using that freedom that he had at the start of the season and last year especially. So why is it that Maresca's almost, because he's so set in playing this certain system, some of the players' spark have just been taken away? And
this is a good point, and this is more of a football-wide issue in general in modern football, is that these Maverick players, these players like your Cole Palmers and whatnot, like if Eden Hazard was playing now, if he was at, you know, in his prime right now, you wouldn't be seeing the same Eden Hazard as we got to see, because players with freedom, players who are creative, players who like to express themselves, that's being coached out of them, because football has become so robotic, because systems are so important, and because players are scared of their lives to take one extra touch than they should do, or to be 1 meter out of the position that the manager says they should be in. You know, these Maverick type players, it's very difficult for them to thrive now, because football's become so robotic in the way that teams set up, in the way that, you know, the game is played now, that it's difficult for this kind of player to thrive. Now, I always feel that in any team, you can afford to have one player where that shit doesn't apply to him. And for us, that's Cole Palmer. Cole, you go and do your thing. You're going to play here. When you get on the ball, do what you do, win us games, create moments of magic. Don't worry about being rigid in this system. Don't worry about, you know, constantly coming back and doing defensive work. We don't want you picking the ball up inside your own half. You know, let us get the ball to you. You go and do your thing. But the problem is, you know, that's not there. That isn't there anymore either. And this is not now just a small patch of concerning form. This is a considerable period of time. This is now, we're looking at 4 going on 5 months, virtually the entire second half of the season. Now, Palmer's a top player. He's still got very good numbers this season. But there is no doubt that this is becoming more of a concern each week that goes by. Now, of course, you know, we don't want to be reliant on Palmer, and it's important we can get results without him playing well. But we do want him playing well. But I'm just not sure between now and the end of the season where he's suddenly going to spark himself back into life.
No, that's the thing. It is concerning. Again, like, I think I've also seen this overthinking on the ball that I never used to see from Cole Palmer, and I think that's
he's trying too hard, isn't he?
Yeah, almost. It's almost like he's really, really now feeling the pressure. And he knows it. Honestly, I just think that penalty he missed did something to him that day. Like, that penalty miss crushed him, because he was already, you know, on a maybe a 3-4-5 game no goals scored, and then since then it's obviously grown to a much higher number. But yeah, and I almost think that stems from Maresca a little bit, that whole overthinking thing. It's almost like he's been drilled in the whole possession gimmick, where, you know, he kind of wants to keep the ball in the team, which is why I've never seen Cole Palmer turn away from defenders as much as he has in the recent games. You know, where did that come from? Why is it you're turning your back? Out of any player, I back you to beat your man. I back you to find a way into the empty pockets. I find a way for you to create a pass that, you know, breaks the lines, and that doesn't happen as much anymore. So I think, again, like, has that been coached out of him? And I wouldn't really be surprised if, because I can't actually find a different explanation. Cole Palmer is way too good for him to just have been you know, a 1 season and a half wonder. That's not true. There's been enough time now, despite his you know, young age. There's been enough consistency now in his career where he's produced numbers. He's scored goals in big games, you know, in finals. He's been an integral player for his national team as well. So it's like, there isn't a doubt in my mind that this is down to the player's individual quality. For me, it's a bigger coaching issue here. And the fact that there's also another player you can pick out now, with obviously Reece James's kind of drop off as well, or like his lack of effectiveness in games, that to me indicates that Maresca's coached out the kind of the flair or the best in them, which, so why do I think if a high profile player comes in summer, well, Maresca's just going to coach the flair out them as well, so what's the point?
Yeah, no, I hear it, and this is why, you know, I look at someone like Esteban who's going to come in this summer. And obviously, I don't think he's going to be an important part of the team straight away. We shouldn't be in a position where that has to be the case. But you look at him and he plays with flair, he plays with freedom. He's an exciting talent. And you sort of think, yeah, it's great that these talents are coming through. It's great that we've managed to secure some of the best young talents in world football. But my concern would be, is that going to be coached out of them? Is the system going to be so rigid that, you know, and the best example of this is Jack Grealish, you know, Maverick type player at Aston Villa. Everyone was like, wow, Grealish, you know, next big thing in English football. And now you know exactly what he's going to do. He's just a shadow of himself. He'll get the ball, he'll do a couple of step overs, he'll recycle the possession and he'll pass back. Like, yes, he's got the trophies in the cabinet. And yes, in that treble winning season, he was very, very good. But ultimately, he's not really hit his potential that he should have done because it's all been coached out of him, that freedom, that expression. And I just worry that that's the way that we're going down with certain players, is that there needs to be a bit more freedom for your match winners. And yeah, look, I mean, ultimately, Palmer will be back. This is not like, 18 months in the pan and then that's it. We're never going to see anything decent from him again. I don't believe that to be the case at all. But it's the same with Nicholas Jackson as well. He's struggling right now. You know, he started the season really well. But again, he's not scored. You know, I know he missed 2 months of injury, but he's not scored with this calendar year.
Jackson was terrible against Fulham.
No, he was. He was terrible. But again, I just don't understand why there's been a collective.
Jackson's conversion rate has always been questionable anyway. It's just he genuinely does and has been able to score goals. He scored some really good and key openers in games at the start of the season that, you know, ultimately kind of helped us and inspired us on to go and win games. But when it comes to those high pressure moments where he needs to deliver in games where we're chasing or we're behind, Jackson can't score goals. He can't score goals under pressure. If there is that pressure for him to deliver, he does fluff his lines a lot. And that comes from that youngster, again, that youngster issue of a player that's not that experienced, that still needs time and still needs to be coached. And again, like, that's all coming down to recruitment for believing that, you know, Jackson should have been the only out and out number 9 here at the club. Yeah, Mark Gue, but he's 18, you know, and he was never going to be a regular starter anyway. And I just think that ultimately he's, you know, the inexperience is coming through. Like Madueke, there was a really good cross that he sent in. It couldn't have been better. It was a heavy touch from Jackson.
It was Neto put one in as well, where he couldn't quite get in. But look, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you can look at the numbers for certain players, and you know, numbers might paint a different picture in certain scenarios, and I get that. And just back to Palmer very quickly, because like people, like, it's obviously a talking point for a lot of people, but this season he's created more opportunities than he did last season. But the only two things here is, one, teammates have let him down in terms of not converting a number of those chances, and secondly, he's also missed way more chances than he did last season. So when you combine those two things together, you can see why there's been a drop-off in his level of output. But it's not just his output, his just general demeanor on the pitch and his general performances on the pitch. They haven't been great since Christmas, really. You know, you can count on less than one, or you count on one hand how many decent performances he's had. But then he has created the opportunities. The teammates haven't taken advantage of them, but he's also just missing a lot more chances. So yeah, there's different things here. There's different things here, but yeah,
that shot he took, you know, the shot he took in the second half.
Yeah, it was abysmal. It was abysmal.
It was like, oh, not you. You would never. But no, I always said that if anyone's allowed a bad patch, it is Palmer. It's just gone to a point where, you know, I'm just concerned for the player, because I just think that, you know, Maresca's got a literal talented player there on his hands who single-handedly carried us last year. And I just think that, you know, he should have the license above anyone else to use his talent, use his freedom. He's so composed and comfortable on the ball. His technique is great. His finishing is great. And, you know, he makes the team ultimately look a lot better. But I do understand the point that, you know, he and Neto, they spam crosses, they go to no one. We don't have a box presence. We know that. Aerially as well, we are, you know, we're weak in the air. We don't have someone that can put headers away, really, apart from Marco Correa, actually, because ironically, the shortest player in the pitch can score headers. But anyways, you get the point. So I do think that stands as well. I think that's why maybe I defended Jadon Sancho as well to a degree, because I think, you know, he's another one that's quite creative. He can, you know, put sort of chances on a plate sometimes, but there aren't others around him to finish those chances. So obviously we've been advocating for him to shoot more. And to be fair, he did. He had a crack when he came on, didn't he, against Fulham? So I'm hoping that actually continues. If Jadon Sancho gets more game time, then have your shots outside the box, do it. You know,
He's done much better recently.
Right foot. Yeah, so that to me looks like a player that's growing a bit of confidence. Neto is another one who just shoot more. Also, I don't know why I was led to believe that Neto had scored a lot more goals at Wolves. He really hasn't. I think
Neto's never been a goal scorer. Never been a goal scorer.
No, and I think, you know, his assists have always been the better kind of part to his contribution as a winger. But I just think, you know, the talent that, again, that's kind of wasted because, again, who's putting those crosses away? Who's putting those passes away? He's spamming crosses left, right, and centre. But, you know, where are they going? And against Ipswich, I remember someone that she said behind me, Chelsea are just a crossing team. And we kind of really are. Our goal
threat, crossing team with no one in the box.
With no one in the box.
Don't make any sense. It was exactly the same with when Real Madrid played Arsenal in the second leg of the Champions League. All Madrid were doing were pumping balls in the box with no one in the fucking box. So why... I don't get why Chelsea are putting so many crosses into the box. Yet there is no one with any box presence in the box. Jackson's great outside of the box with all that stuff until it gets to the box.
He's never in there though, is he?
Cucurella has got better box movement and like box instinct and striker instinct than Jackson does. I'm just thinking, how is that happened? But yeah, look. You could talk all day about, oh, you know, have we improved under Maresca? Have players improved or whatnot? I think ultimately we are better. We're fifth best defense in the league, or fourth or fifth best defense in the league this season. We conceded a club record number of goals last season. We scored more goals this season, I'm pretty sure, than we did last season. So in those two important metrics, we are markedly better. Obviously, where we finish up overall and if we win anything or not will determine that. But yeah, I'm just fed up with this constant revisionism on last season. Because last season wasn't great and this season's not been great either. You know, arguing over what season's been better is kind of a pointless exercise. You know, that's the reality. That's how I see it anyway. You know, we conceded far less goals. We scored more goals. Let's see where we finish. You know, ultimately, even if we get less points than last season and we still get top 5, that's a better season. Simple as that. But I mean, how do you see the sort of the rest of the season panning out? Was that just did we just prolong the season for a week and it doesn't really mean much? I mean, how much impact do you think that is going to have?
Before I answer that, we have 106 people watching, guys, and we are only on 32 likes.
Oh,
Can
guys,
we run likes up?
Guys, come on.
Don't make us beg you. Just hit the like button. It takes a couple seconds, guys, and we really appreciate the support on the channel. But how do I see the rest of the season panning out? See, the false optimist or the hopeless optimist in me says that we can still do this, but I am genuinely also being realistic about this and looking at the teams around us that are also competing for that. You know, there's only about realistically 3 spots there. Realistically, there are 3 spots up there for grabs. And you look at the way that they've, you know, picked up form, you know, their squads look more cohesive. They have players that, can bail them out in games, but, you know, are also working well as a team together. They are being coached better than us as well at the moment, I do think. And again, like you say, we can't rely on individual brilliance to save us out, but it just seems to me that we have to at least pick out, 3 wins out of these 5 to be in an absolutely comfortable spot and not have to guarantee that other teams are going to slip up and that other teams are going to make mistakes. And if I'm looking to pick out those 3 wins, I'm struggling. So that to me says that it's off the table. And, we could genuinely finish 6th.
Well, we could easily finish it. We could finish 7th, Like that's the reality here. We could finish 4th or we could finish 7th, And we've obviously got the toughest run in. The next games are important. New Man City versus Villa tonight, massive game. I don't know what would be better for us. You always feel like,
say, what is better for us?
I think you want a draw, really, because if City win, that's then what they're on to 61 points, and they'll be 4 points ahead of us. Obviously, we'd have a game in hand, and if Villa win, they'll be 60 points. They move ahead of City, and then we'd obviously, if we beat Everton, we'll be 60 points as well. We've got a massively better goal difference than Villa. I suppose what you really want is either a Villa win or a draw. That you don't really want City to be winning. So any scenario where City drop points is going to be beneficial for sure. That's the way that I see it. But yeah, I just struggle to see where the wins come from because we, as I said, we're not playing well. Difficult games. We've got to do something we've not been able to do for a while, and that is to beat decent teams away from home. We just haven't been able to do it. But then there's part of me that also thinks with everything that's happened this season, I wouldn't be surprised if we somehow scraped in, or if we got to the final game of the season at Forest away and we needed to win to get in.
Yeah.
I can definitely see a scenario potentially where there is something riding on that game, the Forest game. Win and you get Champions League football. And given how poor we've been over the second half of the season, I would very much take that scenario right now. I think. I mean, it'd be a big pressure game, obviously. Record against Forest is not good. Forest, tough place to go, but. Yeah, I'd sign up for that right now. But we've got to significantly improve over these last 5 games. I just don't see where a significant improvement's coming from to get, realistically, 9 points. I just don't see where 9 points are coming from.
No, all I'm going to say is this is going to be an interesting end to this season, Call it what you want this Premier League year. I mean, how the hell have we lost as many games and we're still sat here saying that we can get in there? Like,
how many games? We've lost 8. We've lost 8 games this season.
We've lost 8 games this season.
Yeah, Man City have lost more games than us.
Yeah, no, true. How many have we drawn?
Forest have lost more games than us. Newcastle have lost more games than us. We've lost the same amount of games as Villa. So when you look at the teams we're competing with, Forest in third, they've had 9 defeats. Newcastle 10 defeats. City 9 defeats, and us and Villa have had 8. So it's arguably it's the draws that have cost us. We've had 2 more draws than City, 4 more draws than Newcastle, and 3 more draws than Forest. So when you look at it,
and out of those losses, how many of those losses came from the teams that we're about to play?
Well. We beat Newcastle at home.
Draws.
We drew to Forest. We've played City twice. We lost both games. Villa, we beat them at home, but we lost away. So, yeah. It's... Yeah.
I mean, look, that's the thing. Like, me and you were match day going fans. What's the point of me going to games till the end of the season if I don't believe we can still do this? We're still in the conversation. Like, it's not over until it's over. Like, we can have some faith. Obviously, getting to the Champions League and actually being in it is going to be a whole other conversation. And the transfer window is going to be crucial. But we have to get in there in the first place, right? And I think ultimately that's literally the number one thing to concentrate on right now. So I think the players have a lot to show for themselves here till the end of the year. Like, how much mentality do you have for this? How much can you bring it out of yourself? How much do you know? How important do you think this is for the club ultimately to achieve this goal? And, if Maresca turns around after missing out on top 5 and says, well, that's okay because we've been in around top 4 this whole year, only dropped out towards the end, then next year, then I think, that's going to be a whole nother meltdown in itself, but you know, at the end of the day, we still have a chance. Again, the false optimist and the hopeless fan in me says we can do this. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I think we will beat Everton at home, which means that, you know, that ultimately kind of boosts you up a little bit. Obviously, with how other weekends fixtures will unfold, we might again have a little bit of an advantage, but then that means we have to go away in our next game and actually for once make our own advantage rather than keep chasing or keep, you know, being level with other teams around us. Like, we need to make our own little platform here, because yes, there are going to be games that are coming up, and you know, even though Liverpool have won the league, I still think, you know, they'll come out there and they'll give us a game, you know, whatever. But I just think that, you know, I'm looking at Man United at home. We at some point need to start winning this fixture. Like that 4-3 at home. Again, we were 2-0 up and we had to win it at the death again last year. So we always say that it's a good time to play them, yet they always seem to get the better of us, and we just can't do a job. So to me, that's huge. We've struggled against top six sides. You know, they're still in the traditional top six, and you know, we didn't beat them. Out of all the sides we've played this year, it's just Tottenham that we've beaten. So we need to at least have a little bit of confidence to take away from this season as well. But ultimately, you know, you saw the way they celebrated after the Fulham game. Like, I do believe these players are very keen and they're hungry to play. They love it when the fans are happy. At the end of the day, they're all just youngsters. You know, they're seeking validation and they're seeking, you know, love from the fans and from their coaches and their families, whatever. So, you know, that you can trust that they have the club's best interest at heart. It's certainly much better than it was 2 years ago, Charlie, if you remember, when everyone was literally ready to just head away in summer. Like, everyone was just so done and so beyond caring at this point in the season. So it's nice to at least see that the players actually care about this. And, you know, regardless whether the quality isn't always there sometimes, at least the effort is. Standards have been low, you know? Low. So, yeah, I think we can still do this. But I think it will be a combination of us hopefully winning some games and other teams also dropping some points as well in their remaining fixtures.
Well, to be honest, I don't even bother thinking about other teams or what we need from other teams, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We've got to do our job. Whatever anyone else does is irrelevant unless we do what we're supposed to do. So we can talk all the time, oh, these might drop points here, oh, we do this, we do that. Doesn't matter. We have to do what we need to do. And the reality is that we've not been able to take advantage of any opportunities presented to us by anyone. So now would be a pretty good time to start doing that. And, you know, people will say, oh, we might win our home games because those teams have got nothing to play for. But that doesn't mean they're going to roll over and let us win. Just because they're not playing for anything doesn't mean that it's a freebie 3 points. You know, they're still difficult games and they're still games that are going to be hard to win. Yes, obviously, it might be a bit easier to play against teams in the run-in who haven't got anything to play for, but that doesn't mean that they're just going to roll over and give you 3 points. You're still going to be difficult games, and you're still going to have to turn up and get the job done. You know, this idea that these teams have got nothing to play for in the 3 home games, that means that's a guaranteed 3 wins. It is nonsense.
Not how it works, you know?
Mate. We could win all 3 home games. That's possible. All right, that can't be 100% discounted, but the idea that because the teams that are coming to Stamford Bridge won't have anything to play for means they're going to means we're guaranteed to win is nonsense. You know, I'm just not having that. I'm just not having it at all. But I was going to say, I've forgotten now.
Remember.
Let me try and remember. Oh yeah.
Well, that was anticlimactic.
Yeah, no. Transfers. We'll finish with a little bit of transfer stuff.
Transfer stuff.
Bro, we were shit for 80 minutes last game. I don't need to see 0.22 XG from Fulham to know we were shit. I used my eyes. I watched it. We were terrible for 80 minutes in that game. Yes, we improved
in the second half.
We improved in the second half. But the reality is, right, just because Fulham didn't play that well and didn't have a shot on goal or whatever it was in the second half, that doesn't mean that we were amazing. We were still poor for the vast majority of that game. Let's just say it how it is. I'm delighted we won, but let's not pretend that we were like we played really well, because we didn't. You know, just because Fulham didn't do anything in the second half doesn't mean we were really good. You know, this is just like
yeah. So what's the transfer news? Talk to me about transfers.
Yes, let's talk transfers instead of arguing about whether we were fucking good or not in a game that we weren't good in for 3/4 of. Let me just find it. What we saying about Actually, no, we're not going to do transfers. We are going to do transfers. We are going to do transfers.
What's it going to be? What is it going to be? Yeah, so we're doing transfers or are we not doing transfers?
Can you see a situation where we miss out on Liam Delap because Man United win the Conference League and win the Europa League and get Champions League football? Because Liam Delap, the idea is Chelsea or Man United, but both clubs are waiting on what type of European football they'll have. Imagine Chelsea missing out on Delap to United because we miss out on the Champions League and they somehow win the fucking Europa League and they're in the Champions League and they get Delap. I mean, it looks like Delap is going to be is the main guy that we're looking for. I mean, how do you feel about
that? Look, I think we will sign Delap this summer. And I think that, you know, I'm a fan who thinks that, yeah, Delap comes in and he probably improves us in a way, but he's not a player that I'm absolutely dying to sign. However, I do understand that out of all the kind of prospects there that we will kind of go for, I think Chelsea are probably the most serious about Delap. That doesn't mean I agree with it. There are at least 3 other forwards that I'd rather go for. And again, for me, I think Delap, whatever he's done at Ipswich has been great. You know, he's left them with some good memories. However, I think the hype there is a little bit too much, in my opinion. And I think that someone else certainly also has to come through the door, because I don't think Delap is the piece that we've been missing. And he comes in and, you know, takes Chelsea to this whole new level. I think, you know, he was maybe someone that we could have strengthened the squad with mid-season to maybe help us get a little bit more goals towards the end of the year. Obviously, we knew that wasn't going to be possible, so we're never going to let him go in January. But I think there are certainly better targets out there that we, as a very big club, serious club, should and be able to pursue. If we miss out on Champions League, that conversation is very different, and that's just one of the dangers of missing out on UCL football again, because, you know, again, we become so much less attractive. Let's be real, a lot of these players and forwards that we're looking at, they're in their mid-20s, maybe some of them are further close to 30 now, and of course they're going to want the prospect of playing Champions League football, as opposed to coming and joining a project that has been up and down, left, right and centre, and nobody really knows what it is. But, you know, Delap for me isn't a fix to everything. He's just an addition. And I think, you know, if you're going to go sign him, you also need to go sign someone else, if that makes sense.
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree.
But if I'm Chelsea and if I'm in the mind of recruitment, in their heads, Delap is a low-cost signing. He's an easy one to get over the line, and he's easier to be attracted by the club.
Yeah, I think, look, Delap makes sense on a number of levels. He's a good player. He's done well at Ipswich. He's got 12 league goals this season, first season in the Premier League in a struggling side. £30 million is not expensive for a striker this day and age. The wages won't be massive either, and he's the profile of striker we lack in the squad, and his strengths and his attributes are completely different to what Jackson gives. So that's all good. However, I do wonder how he would be in a team that is going to come up against a lot of low blocks. Most teams will all go and have a go at Ipswich, and a lot of Delap's best moments have been in transition on the counter attack, which is not really going to be the case at Chelsea. So can he adapt to teams sitting deep and whatnot? That remains to be seen. But look, if this is as well as someone else, then that's that's fine by me. I would just be concerned if this was the only centre forward signing, because it doesn't do enough to take us. Doesn't do enough to take us to the next level. And people will say, "Oh, Gyökeres and Osimhen or whatever." If Chelsea wanted Osimhen, they would have paid the money last summer. They're not going to.
Osimhen's never happening at Chelsea.
They're not going to suddenly decide, "Oh, we're now going to pay the money this summer." A year later,
chance.
because it just
chance.
like, why would you do that? And then people go on about Gyökeres. Yeah, sure, Chelsea would potentially like Gyökeres, but the reality is that Gyökeres would probably prefer to join Arsenal or prefer to join Liverpool, and you cannot blame him for that, because those are two clubs that are in a far better position than us, and are far more likely to win the major trophies and compete for major trophies before we get anywhere near.
Yeah, no,
that's just the reality.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. It really is. So the striker situation is, yeah, sure, get Delap, but I think we need two. You know, I think you need three.
Yeah. They will get you two. They will get you two. They'll get you Delap and a 19-year-old prospect coming up.
But why would you do that when you've got Mark Guiu? What's the point?
Well,
if you're going to go and get that, then you might as well keep Guiu as a third choice. You know, if you're going to just go and sign another young kid, it doesn't make sense. You need three centre forwards in the squad. It's as simple as that. You look back at what Chelsea have had in the past, and we've had, you know, Drogba, Kesman, Gudjohnsen at the time when Mourinho first come. You know, we've had Crespo, Drogba, and others. You know, you've had Giroud, you've had Remy, you've had Demba Ba. You know, you've had all these guys, and all we have now is Jackson. All right, you've got Mark Guiu, but he's 18-year-old kid who's barely played any senior football. That's not. I don't understand how people think that's gonna. And Kalu, yeah, I don't understand. And Anelka as well. I don't understand why anyone at Chelsea thinks the group of strikers we have is anywhere near enough, and why the lap coming in would be fine.
Yep. But again, I mean, for me, like, I have so many trust issues with Chelsea pursuing strikers, because it's just something that gets left over for every other window, that I just struggle to even imagine a world where we sign a very competent centre forward in summer, and one that has a very good CV to back up the name and the money, and the, you know, there's no guarantee with anyone, but at least give you a little bit more confidence that you're signing someone who is capable and is competent and, you know, can score you goals and can instantly upgrade you, because we know that our model is the what ifs. So I don't know, I'm just not filled with confidence really going into this summer transfer window, and on their criteria, Delap is the perfect signing for them. Yeah. Let's be real. So that's an instant pursuit. Like, they will make it their mission to go out there and sign Delap, and they'll tell us, well, here you go, you got what you wanted. But it's just very difficult to imagine how we go and actually pursue a Gyökeres. I don't imagine that.
No, I don't. I'd love to be wrong, but I cannot see us getting the quality we need that's going to improve the first team. I personally can't see it, because all the evidence we have so far suggests that they are not going to go and get who we're looking for. And, you know, I mean, look, I'd probably rather have Delap than Sesko, because I think he probably suits us a bit better. But then you hear names like Ekatike, and it's like, why would you spend 100 million euros on someone who's had one good season at Frankfurt? You know, it's the names we're being linked with just aren't really ceiling raisers. They're not guys that are going to come in and push you to the next level straight away. We don't need any more squad players. We don't need any more project players. We need guys ready to come in right now, proven experience, proven quality, to come in and improve the team. And I do not see that happening. Do I think we'll do business this summer? We'll get players in the positions we need, but I don't really think they're going to really be much of a significant upgrade at all on what we have.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. But yeah, it's very difficult. You know, we've already seen the route they're going down with signings. And for me, it's like, why will they change that this summer? Like, that's why I never believed that Osimhen was a general, actual, like an actual tangible pursuit, because, you know, Osimhen's not a signing you make on deadline day and with 2 hours to go to the window closes. Like, that's unserious. So, you know, why was it that if we were serious about Osimhen in the first place, that, you know, we didn't get him over the line last summer? So to me, that's just a fairy tale. It's whispered every window, but he's not someone that Chelsea will sign. You know, that's just it's a myth, it's a legend. But yeah, it will be interesting to see. I certainly think, though, I would love for us to go in and get an actual very experienced centre back. No, like, clear name pops into my head right now, but that's not really for us to work out. Like, find someone who is gonna be at least a fraction or a 12th of what Thiago Silva was for us at the back. Because let's be real, none of our centre backs this year, and sorry, Wesley Fofana, because you've not been around, have actually been good enough, been consistently available and consistently delivering good defensive performances. It's too hot and cold. It's too game in, game out. You have a good game. You have like, how many games have we had where everyone in the back line has looked so secure and confident? We've not even had the same back line, really, have we? Like last year with like Forest and United, I think we were up there with the most chopped and changed back lines. Well, here we are again this year, because we've not had a consistent back three, back four, whatever in forever. So it's like we need someone there that has a little bit of experience, a little bit of leadership as well, and can tie in all the youngsters that are still learning on the job. Because I'm sorry, Levi Colwill is not captain material. He's not quite ready there yet. And he's certainly got a lot more to learn as a defender. We know that. But someone needs to come in, because it's too chop and changey. Badiashile, I don't really hear Chelsea fans go, oh, we need Badiashile in there right now. That's our biggest problem. You know, we don't have those players, especially at the back. You don't have that player that you think, oh, I'm going to miss them so much if they're not there. Like that was Silva. We don't have a player like that, not even in the team. Like, I love Reece James, but we don't have that kind of vocal leadership there that, you know, helps
Reece
these players.
James is not a leader.
He's not. Look,
He's not.
his own way. In his own way, he is, because I know that everyone at the club, you know, everyone in the team loves him. They're all mates. They've got a good relationship, and he's very cool, calm, and collected when it comes down to having words with the ref and, you know, chilling the other players out if they're, you know, losing their minds a little bit. He's good at that. He's kind of got this quiet leadership, but it's not that kind of, guys, you know, pick your socks up. But then again, like, his manager won't even bring him on when his players on the pitch need him in a game that they're losing. Yeah. So that just says everything as well.
No, I hear it. And I think the centre-back thing's really important as well. I think there's going to be a number of centre-backs leaving the club this summer. We know that Chelsea like Dean Huijsen, would like to get Dean Huijsen. I've got no issue with Huijsen if it's an addition with someone else who's got experience, who's a leader.
He's 19, isn't he? Or 20?
Just turned 20 last week.
Well, there you go.
I look at it and I think, if Huijsen was the only centre-back signing, that's not addressing anything. That's just signing another talented youngster with potential who could be good in a few years' time. That doesn't solve the issue of a lack of leadership at the back. That doesn't give us a leader of the back line. That doesn't give us someone for these other centre-backs to learn from. That doesn't solve any of the centre-back issues we've got if we purely just go and sign Dean Huijsen. You need to sign maybe a Mark Gurhey and Huijsen as well. You know, you need experience and you need quality. If it's Huijsen plus an experienced centre-back, no issue. If it's just Dean Huijsen, then we've not addressed any of our defensive issues whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, it's as simple as that. And it's that's the reality, you know. I'm not saying, oh, just sign players of a certain age, but you need players that have been there and done it.
Yeah.
And Huijsen hasn't, you know. He hasn't.
Yeah.
I like him and he's talented. Of course he is. And there's ability there, sure. But for what Chelsea need at centre-back, another 20-year-old centre-back with one season of Premier League football is not the answer to our issues at the back.
Yeah.
It simply isn't. You know, you need experienced centre-backs. And the centre-back market's not great. You look at, you know, there have been links with Kim Min-jae at Bayern Munich. I don't know how serious that is, but That's maybe the sort of experience you need to be looking at. I wouldn't have an issue with Mark Gurhey coming back to the club. He's 24 going on 25, Premier League experience, England's best centre-back right now. Leadership qualities, can play in a 3, can play in a 4. I wouldn't have an issue with that. That would suit us better than just signing Huijsen, because that ticks more boxes for what we need in a defender right now. But let's let's wait and see. Let's wait and see.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I'll wait and see.
We will wait and see. But let's round it out there. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you smash the like button on the way out. Big love to everyone in the chat, as always. There'll be a show at 10 p.m. tonight, so make sure you stay tuned in for that one. But as always, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Up the Chelsea, and we'll catch you again soon.
Bye, guys.